Welcome back to another Highfleet Campaign 3 Finalists video. We've got 3 ships I want to get through in this one. We're going to look at the Courageous, the Flower, and the Gladiator. I'm going to keep things quite quick, so we're not going to do any testing for the Courageous and the Flowers. It's pretty clear how they're going to fight and how they're going to play. I will be running through the Gladiators in a combat scenario just to see what they're doing, but there's a lot of similarities in the design, so we probably won't be spending too much time on them either. I want to get these done. Once we've done that, there's only a few more ships to do and we can get the final vote out and then we can start the campaign, which I'm really excited for. Just wanted to say thank you to everybody for all the nice comments on the video. It's nice to see that people are still excited for this campaign. I know it's a long time coming, and I'm looking forward to playing it. So, let's get on with it. The first ship we're going to take a look at in this video is the Courageous. This is the vanilla Courageous in front of you right here, and I want to take a couple of seconds just to look at it because the vote is going to be for something quite radically different from this ship, and I want you to bear in mind that when you do approach the vote, that this is going to be the most common ship that we see in the campaign. The Courageous is pretty much in every single garrison. It's the ship that the game uses just to fill out a roster when it needs some more points. So whatever you vote for, we're going to be experiencing and seeing quite a lot. And there's definitely going to be a high temptation to put something in here that's going to make my life hell. But I really want you to think about that before you do the voting. The default Courageous is very simple. It has a speed of 300 km per hour, which is actually pretty fast. It has a 37mm cannon, and it has 2 bombs. Sometimes the AI can do something pretty audacious with those bombs, but quite often it can't. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. The first Courageous replacement that made it through to the finals is the Sentry from Ozedka, which I hope I'm saying correctly. It's quite a nice little replacement for the standard Courageous. It's got an AK-100, which is a significant upgun over the 37mm. It also comes with an MR2M FCR tracking radar, which means that not only can it sort of detect me as I'm coming closer to the city, but it also can use the 2 sprints that are equipped on it. It's clear that the design for this ship is to put the Courageous into more of a support role, something that's going to be a little bit more annoying in combat so it can't just be ignored, because what it's going to do is continually chip away with me with that AK-100 and intercept the first few Zeniths I fire off every time one comes onto the screen. I quite like the design here where they've managed to armor one side of the ship as though this is the side that's supposed to be facing the enemy and the rest is all for important systems like the escape pods and the sprints. But that is your first example here. That is the Sentry from Ozvedka. Next up, we've got the Cenotaph from Corazon Ray. This seems to come from a very similar school of thought as the Sentry, in that they've taken the standard armament on the Courageous, upgunned it to an AK-100, and then added a support component. Instead of having a tactical support side to it with the sprints, this now mounts an LA-29 strike craft, which means that on its own, it's not going to be much of a threat, but if you consider that some garrisons can have 3 or 4 Courageouses, then this could become a problem. Also, planes can be quite annoying in normal combat as well, so that's another factor to take onto it. So you've kind of seen the tactical support option version of Courageous. Here is more of a light strike / long-range defensive version, where you can expect swarms of planes to be coming out of cities as I approach them if I've been detected. Next up, we have the Nimble from Cygnus. This is a much faster looking Courageous replacement with a top speed of 401 km per hour and a thrust to rate ratio of 4.5. They've gone for the same upgun of the AK-100, which I think you'll see as a common thread on this ship. A lot of people don't like the 37mm as your only primary weapon. And it has 2 Zeniths as well, just to give it a little bit more punch, make it a little bit more worrying if it gets close and gets a backstab with one of those missiles. It could do a lot of damage. It makes the ship a little bit more of a threat than it normally is. Definitely more of a singular focus ship. It's designed to just be frustrating in combat. It doesn't have a strategic element to it, but still quite a good design. I like that this small nod to armoring they've managed to get on top of the ship here, but there's really nothing else to defend it at all, and it should be a pretty good little ship if it gets voted for. Next, we have the Tiny Tim from Golden Floof. This is a ship designed 100% to be a strategic threat. It comes with 2 R3 missile launchers. These will have to be changed to KH-15s, I think, for the campaign to work. But even so, if you consider, again, that every garrison can have 2 to 3 Courageouses, or Couragei, I'm not sure what the plural is, it does mean that there's a good chance that we'll get a lot of missiles coming for us if this is the ship that gets voted for. It has absolutely no tactical combat ability at all, apart from the 1 Zenith that it carries. So if I do actually get into the city, and this is what is primarily defending it, I'll be able to mop it up really, really quickly. But the issue is if this ship is defending, getting to the city is going to be much harder. So that's the Tiny Tim from Golden Floof, not Gordon Floof. Next, we have the Fastball from I Have Been Gooped, and this is a ship built with a singular design in mind, and I really like the dedication to the sole role that this ship will have. If you look up in the top left-hand corner, it has a top speed of 614 kilometers per hour and a thrust-to-rate ratio of 6.8. This ship is designed to sprint out of a garrison when I'm detected, get as close as it can, and launch its A-100 missile as soon as it gets in range to do so. It also carries an IRS-1 in an attempt to pick up and detect me on the way in. So it is what I would call a search and destroy defense vessel with a singular focus. It is built to honed to a T as to what its role is and what it will do. It does mean that it has absolutely no tactical benefit to the garrison at all, but if you consider the idea of 2 or 3 of these just sprinting out of a garrison to engage me, that could be quite scary. That is the fastball from I Have Been Gooped. Our next courageous design is the Valiant from Many-Headed Mishaps. Many-Headed Mishaps is an interesting design philosophy that they've carried through to a lot of the ships they've designed for the competition that I really like to see. They've focused on making a ship that kind of makes sense from a 2D perspective. So if you consider the right-hand side of the ship here is the front, the left-hand side of the ship is the back, it can kind of come together and you can see the way the ship is designed. I really like this design philosophy. I think it's really cool that they've been able to take something different and go with it and build a whole fleet of ships around it. The ship itself is incredibly fast. Don't look at the way it's built and think it might be slow. It's got a top speed of 460 kilometers per hour, a range of 2,000 kilometers. It's been upgunned to have an AK-100 rather than the 37mm. It also carries a Fab 1000 bomb, which I love the inclusion and the nod back to what the standard Courageous does. We also have a tracking radar on here, which allows it to fire the 2 R9 sprints it has equipped to it in the cockpit area, which I like as well, giving it, again, that tactical component where it can help out a little bit or get frustrating for me when a Courageous or a Valiant joins the battle halfway through. I launch a Zenith and it gets shot down. So that is the Valiant from Many-Headed Mishaps, a very different design of ship, but I hope you appreciate it as much as I do. Our last design here is one that I think is especially evil from Orange Elephant. This is the Weevil. It is a mini flower variant of the Courageous with 4 Zeniths and a 75mm Vimple. It's quite a nice little design. I like the symmetry to it, especially with the way that the bridge and the generator here have formed this component structure. It's just a cute little Courageous variant. The 75mm is actually a good gun, especially when massed. You've got a few of these in the battlefield, it could cause a problem. And having 4 Zeniths on each of these is actually quite a nasty amount of armament, especially if you've got 2 of them spawning at the same time when they're gradually launching 8 Zeniths. That could really tax any PD system that you've got. So that is your last option for a Courageous. That's the Weevil from Orange Elephant. So next we're going to have a look at the finalists we have to replace the Flower, which is another quite common ship you find in garrisons. Its primary armament is 2 Vimples, which is fine but not that scary, but the big thing about this ship is it comes with 6 Zeniths, and you're going to see a theme here in the entrance where most of them have tried to take that concept and expand on it with the Zeniths and the Vimples. I hope you find these interesting. It's really nice to see how people have taken the original design and tried to flex with it, and let's just jump straight in. First up, we have the Lotus from Archelon, which I really think exemplifies what I was just talking about taking the concept of the Flower and really pushing it. What they've decided to do is remove that primary armament and double down on the missiles. So first of all, we're looking at 9 Zeniths here. We've got 4 on this side and 5 on this side. That is a lot of missiles to be packing on a ship like this. You'll also notice that we've got some sprints here. The sprints are actually supported by 2 tracking radars mounted in the superstructure of the ship, hidden away quite nicely, but you can spot them by them rotating there. And they also support the KH-15 missile that is equipped to the ship as well. So it has a little bit of an exterior to the battle threat, and then once the battle gets engaged, it has 9 Zeniths to fire off and 3 sprints to defend with, making it quite a frustrating ship to deal with. What they've also done is they've added in a layer of armor underneath the primary weapons, which I guess they're usually secondary, but they're primary in this case, meaning that as the missiles get deployed, the ship will still be able to contribute to the battle as it gets pulled away by layers, which I quite like. I like the thinking of how it's just going to sustain itself throughout the fight. All in all, it's a very interesting design. So that's the Lotus from Archelon. Next up, we've got the Flower 1 from Kipco. Kipco have taken it in a more of a let's refine the Flower as a whole direction. So we've got a more armored side structure, although the Flower itself does have a lot of armor. We've got the 6 Zeniths, and they've upgunned the primary weapons to AK-100s, giving it a much more of a punch when it's in a longer fight. They have given it flares, which unfortunately the AI won't be able to use, but it does mean I'll be able to make use of those flares when we do get into an extended combat, which is nice. And it is a cute little ship. It's much more compact than the standard Flower, I think, and I like the kind of pyramid shape that it has going for it. So that is the Flower 1 from Kipco. Next up, we've got the Cot from Orange Elephant, which may seem familiar because they also entered the same ship into the ballistic category. We've still got the 6 Zeniths and the 2 AK-100s, which is the same as the Kip 1 that we just saw from Kipco. The difference here is we have a little bit less armor, a little bit more speed, but the armor layout is quite intelligently placed with the hardened armor to protect the engines, and then the reinforced hull just to try and protect a little bit of the less vulnerable components, even though we've got fuel tanks here, which could cause a problem. So that's the Cot from Orange Elephant. Next up we have the Flower from Slums Inc. And this is a very interesting design that we should spend a couple of seconds having a look at. First of all, we've upgraded the primary weapon to a single DAT mullet, which is a nice upgrade. That's a much more powerful gun. What I want to draw your attention to is the slight heresy involved in the fact that they've been able to mount their Zeniths behind a wall of reinforced hull. And these missiles will fire fine in the way they've been put in because they've used elevation to get them above this wall. This is not something you can do in the latest version of the game, but we've rolled back for this competition, so they are able to do it in the version that we're using. There's also a lot of armor on this ship. I do, although it's not 100% effective, like the rotation of the armor here is to give it more of a fluid turn, and the little spurs here are quite nice as well to make use of what weight they had left. All in all, it's a really cute ship. It has some heresy, which I think people are very much like. It is a bit slow on the side, but that's because it's carrying so much armor. So that's the Slums Inc. Flower. And our last flower entrant is the Stinger from Tokyo, going with the 2 AK-100 upgun. We've lost one of the Zeniths, we now have 4, but they're in a very well protected launch bay on the top of their ship. The ship itself is very well protected by a large armored shield all the way around, keeping it very, very safe. The missiles here are in reinforced hull as well, so that once they launch, there will be some protection here. The fact that they've elevated up the armor at the top means that this will act as a little bit of a shot trap, meaning shots that try to come into the more delicate superstructure in here will tend to hit the sides of the armor, keeping it alive for a little bit longer. It has reasonable speed and maneuverability. It's a very nice compact little ship, and it's another good possibility for the Flower. So the final ship we're going to have a look at in this video is the Gladiator, and I think the Gladiator is a really great vanilla ship. It's a ship I recommend to a lot of people to take in their starting fleets, to use to take down garrisons and bigger strike groups, because it is a really good design from the developer of the game. It's got good armor, it's got palash, it's got a great armament, it's very durable, and it does have a big weakness of being fired at from below, but that's kind of in the design of the ship. I think that's something that the developer wanted to put in, but as a vanilla ship, it's very, very good. So what I'm really keen to see is what has the community come up with to replace it, because it is still a ship that I don't like to see in a garrison, because I know it's going to have to be a priority target to take out. The fact that those AK-100s can take armor piercing or prox fuse is something that makes the Gladiator a little bit of a wild card with the amount of fire that it can put out at a broadside. Let's not forget that it also has 2 Zeniths, so let's just see how that translates over to the community submissions. So the first of our Gladiator replacements is the Dirty Harry from Ozetska, and you can see straight away because of the arrangement of the 6 AK-100s here, it does put you in the mind very quickly of a revolver, which is of course Dirty Harry's signature weapon. The ship itself is very well armored. You can see it's got thick armor all the way around. We've obviously lost the Zeniths in order to replace them with the guns here. I don't think it mounts anything in the way of palash, but we'll have a quick check. It does actually have 2 palash covering the sides. So on top of the very heavy armor that it has also has a layer of incoming propulsion for fire, so it does make it a very tough nut to crack. One of the things that they've addressed is the problem that the old Gladiator has of being vulnerable from below, and while there are still some gaps in the armor here, it has a much heavier amount of armor down there just to make it a little bit harder to hit. So that is the Dirty Harry from Ozetska. And just very quickly, I'm going to jump into a test fight just so we get an idea of what the firepower on this ship is. 6 AK-100s is pretty much the most murdery collection of weapons I can think of. Now, we might actually be able to shoot this down. Yep. I'll fire at this Intrepid first, I think. Did take a lot of fire there. This flower is causing me some problems. If I could hit as well, that would help. But you can see straight away that the ship is durable, and it has a crazy broadside when it opens up with everything. And it has a nice amount of fire suppressants as well, as I'm able to put these fires out. When I do actually get a barrage to hit, the damage is considerable. It's a paladin, not a flower like I thought it was. You can see the armor still mostly isn't breached, and if I get something in my sights, it will just die very, very quickly. Yeah, it's a very, very, very nice ship. Okay, so that is the combat example for the Dirty Harry. Next up, we have the Pyroclasm from Corazon Ray. what Corazon Ray has done is upgun from AK-100 to D80 mullets with a quad D80 mullet armament, which is pretty scary. We also have 4 Zeniths in this design, which is a lot. We've had to keep the weakness from below that the Gladiator is well known from, but we have a very strong armor layer along the top of the ship here. I want to quickly check for Palash. It's something I always forget to check. We don't have any Palace on this ship, so the cost has gone into the primary armament of 40-80 mullets, which does give it a really nasty punch and makes this a threat to any size of ship, whereas the AK-100s may struggle against a very heavily armored cruiser. So very quickly, we're just going to jump into a fight with the Pyroclasms to see how it fares against a lightish garrison. I'm very happy with that shot. Not quite on with that one. Very glad I managed to shoot down that Zenith. And that one. This ship is definitely a threat. Very nice. Oh, it's very nice to fly as well. This slugger shouldn't last very long. If I can hit it, but the sluggers are hard to hit at range, so I don't mind missing a couple of shots there. Got a Gladiator MRL coming in, that is a threat. I wasn't able to shoot down that incoming missile, unfortunately. Armor should be going down soon. Yeah, you can see that this Gladiator is a very good design. It's been very well built, and the firepower that it has is pretty nuts. Just going to try and dodge these missiles. It has the speed to make a dodge if it needs to. Oh, are they going to hit the other Gladiator? Oh, I was too busy watching to see if that was going to hit through. Yeah, you can see straight away we've got another great Gladiator submission here. The 4080 mullets are something a little bit different, and I really like to see them. Our next ship is the Burrito from Ensign Foil, which is another 6 AK-100 Gladiator variant. I think this is very similar to the one we saw earlier, but maybe a more compact version of it. Ensign Foil is a proponent of these little spurs to get things that need to come out the ship, which I really like. And what I can see here is a ship that is incredibly heavily armored. It is not very fast, and it does have a lot of very critical components near the top of the armor, but it still looks like a very powerful ship. There's actually no slots free for me to attempt to put a Palash in. Let me just quickly add a bit of hull. I just want to see if there's any Palace here that I haven't spotted. No, there's no Palace on the ship, so it is just 100% what you see is what you get, but it still looks very, very nice. So that's the Burrito from Ensign Foil. And just a quick test fight to see how the Burrito does in combat. This is going to be pretty nuts because we've got 3 Gladiators and an Archangel in the battlefield. There's such a large amount of firepower, it is really crazy. Let's try and see if we can take this Gladiator out. We'll try and get below it very quickly and get away from this Sarma. No, Sarma, that's a slugger. Okay, that's the Gladiator down. Now I want to try and deal with the Archangel if we can. Just fire some shots at the slugger while we're moving. You can see the armor is doing a very good job so far. Armor piercing is a problem though, we don't want to see that. Ooh, and our Gladiator coming with our AP rounds as well. We managed to bust through the armor on the Archangel though with a really nice barrage. That's a huge amount of damage to the Archangel. We've lost 1 engine. Yeah, okay, you can see very clearly how the 6 AK-100s are just very, very nasty. And once you get through the Gladiator's outer layer of Palash on the bottom, it does tend to go down very quickly. Hopefully that's enough of a demonstration of the Burrito for you. Let's move on to the next Gladiator. And here we have the Templar from nickname Toms. They've gone for a 5 AK-100 variant, which is still a big up gun, but gives them a little bit more room for extra features, which you can see they've used to make sure the ship is very, very well armored. Again, we've got a nice showing of armoring up where the legs and the engines are located at the bottom of the ship, just making sure that it's a little bit more protected. I don't believe we have any Palash on this ship. No, we don't. No, there's 2 Palash, 1 on each side, so that's another advantage they've used with dropping down 1 gun has given them that extra Palash. We also have 6 D30s here, which I think will make it quite maneuverable and good at lateral movement, which is what we want to see. If there's anything, and I don't like to point bad things out about ships, but it's something that stands out to me straight away, it's just that the cockpit the bridge is quite close to the top of the armor here, which means, you know, some armor-piercing rounds straight down the top could get an early kill, but I still think it'll be quite difficult to deal with. So that's the Templar. And just to be thorough, here's an example of the Templar in combat. Again, it's probably going to perform very similar to the other variants because they're all very excellent builds. That wasn't a great spread of fire, unfortunately. Nice dodge there. I'm very happy with that. I'm not so happy with that shot, though. That was a good shot, though. constantly getting shot at from below is still a weakness. Trying to boost out of the sheer amount of missiles that are coming from me here, which is quite high. I think we've lost... Oh no, we haven't lost our palace on the other side. Definitely another very durable ship. If you look at the bottom left-hand corner, it hasn't really taken that much damage. And yeah, that is the Templar. And here we have our final entrant for the Gladiator replacement. And of course, where would we be without an entry from TRAM? Here is their mushroom entry for the Gladiator, the Portobello. You can see that they've gone for 6 AK-100s, but they've put them all along the top of the ship, making this a dedicated bottom fighter because of the large fuel tank. I do really appreciate that TRAM has dedicated themselves to going, yes, we're going to use large engines on most of our ships, and they've built around that rather than being restricted to it. We've got 4 Zeniths in here as well, which gives it just that extra punch. Getting 6 Zeniths and 4 6 AK-100s and 4 Zeniths is actually very impressive. We don't have any Palash, I don't think. No, there's no Palash on the ship, but all in all, we've got a very, very compact and powerful looking ship. Getting on top of this would be very, very nasty. And of course, we have to have a quick battle with it just to see how it goes. There's 3 Paladins in this engagement, so that's pretty scary. The convergence on these guns is going to be a little bit different from what I'm used to because they're in a flat line. Let's see if we can shoot down this. Nice. Lots of missiles coming in though. Was able to shoot down one of them. Like TRAM's other ships, it's a little bit heavy, but it wants to be at the bottom of the battlefield, so why not? I love the missiles deploying at the bottom like that, even if the AI is not great at them. Our problem with missiles that shoot downwards is if a ship is on the ground at the start of an engagement, like you've had a surprise attack, it will occasionally just fire them and destroy the ship because they'll hit the ground, but that's okay. The other nice thing about massed AK-100s is you can just hold down the fire button and get a reasonable rate of fire out of them. And yeah, that is the Portobello from TRAM. Apologies if I cut off right at the end there. I had a slight issue with the recording. I just wanted to record a little outro just to say that we're getting really through the ships. I know this is a longer video, but I thought covering 3 of them just made more sense, that we're not just doing these videos forever, and I know the interest in them will die down if I just produce the same thing over and over again. But I hope that being able to see these ships in the game gives you a much more informed position to come from when you want to actually vote on them, which will be very, very soon. Thank you again to everybody for voting. Remember, if you want to discuss the ships, we have a dedicated Discord for the channel. The link to it is in the description of the video, and we have channels specifically for Highfleet chat there. There's some very interesting shipbuilding going on and people talking about the plans going forward. Thanks again for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.